Hey guys, last week we did a video on how to service your DT Swiss Star Ratchet freehub body. Today we're going to do a video on how to service your pawled freehub body with springs and pawls. These are probably the most common styles of hub outside of the Star Ratchet. These are on DT Swiss 370s and older DT Swiss hubs, Hope hubs, Industry 9 hubs like this one here, Bontrager, Specialized. Most hubs are very, very similar to this with some variation in their amount of pawls, the amount of engagement and things like that. So we're going to show you at home how to clean out the mechanism that makes that noise to make sure your bike's reliable, sounds good and it runs really smoothly. So come and follow along and we'll show you the process to do this. Hubs like these are a tolerance fit hub. So basically when they're in the frame and done up tight, that's what holds the end caps on and holds all the preload on the bearings. So pulling these hubs apart once they're out of the bike is quite easy. The end cap on the drive side that holds on the freehub body is just pressed on and is a tight fit essentially. So this will just pull off, allowing us to access the freehub body. At home, this can be quite tight in some situations. So I would highly recommend you can actually leave the cassette still on this, whatever cassette it is, so you can use the cassette for some leverage to jiggle and pull it off. We did this in our DT Swiss video if you need a little bit of reference on that. So fortunately this one here is a nice easy fit, so you can pull that off there. Now the freehub body will be ready to slide out. As we pull these off on any given hub, we want to be really careful that none of the small parts inside fall out. So we'll go nice and slow and do this over like a nice hard surface. Do not do this over a decking or garden or grass because you will guaranteed lose parts for this. So we'll pull it out and expose the freehub body mechanism inside. The way these hubs work, the freehub body has what are called pawls, which are the little arms, and then a spring that holds the pawl out and keeps them springy. These pawls have teeth, which engage in a toothed ring inside the main hub body. This one's really fine, but it's got a series of teeth all around the outside in here. And what happens is these teeth here engage when you go in a forward direction, you pedal forward, they grab, but when you stop pedaling and the wheel continues to turn, they go click, 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 click. And that's where we get our click from. This mechanism here requires regular cleaning and service to maintain the freehub mechanism. So we're going to show you how to do that on this style of hub here. This is an Industry 9 hub, which is a really nice hub. It's got lots of these things. Most hubs out there will probably have three pawls and 3 springs. So what we'll need to do this job, we'll need some degreaser or like some wax and grease remover or cleaner to clean all the old grease off of this. We're going to need some oil. A little bit of chain lube will do the job fine. And we're going to need some specific freehub body grease. Slick honey is what we use. There is variations of this that you can get to, but this is important for working with these hubs. So let's get into it. If you have a really, really dirty one of these and you want to absolutely go deep on it, you can remove all the pawls and the springs and lay them out and give them a really thorough clean. And this can be really good to do time to time, but also not necessarily for the beginner at home. So we're going to show you how to do this, leaving it all together in a really nice, simple method. So to start with, we're going to use the degreaser. I would recommend spraying it on your rag or on your cloth so we don't saturate the bearings in it. And we just want to give these a good wipe up. Get as much of the old grease as we can off them. You'll also want to clean the bearing and the inner shaft while we're doing this. You can really give the whole thing a good clean up actually. Give the whole thing, make it look like brand new again. So once we got this all cleaned up and looking good, we'll need to do the exact same for the ring in the hub. So same thing, we'll get that really nice and cleaned up. We've got all the old grease cleaned up and it's looking really nice and clean again. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to put a small amount of oil on the pivot points for these pawls here. I like to just put a very, very small drop just on the edge of each one of these. And then we can slightly work it in. And this will just give the pivot point a bit of lubrication so there's no friction. Cool, and we can wipe off the excess oil off that. Now we're ready for the last thing in this process, which is the FREEHUB body grease. FREEHUB body grease, we have to use a special grease because this is a non-sticky grease. It won't cause these poles to get stuck down. It's a low friction, non-stick grease. So what we'll do, we don't want to saturate these. We just want to apply this to the mating surfaces where the metal touches the metal on the hub. So what I would typically do is we're just going to wipe a small amount on the edges of all these poles. And then we're going to, if we can access it, we'll wipe a nice thin smear into the ring in the hub too. We don't want to put too much on, so if you have any big clumps, just wipe them out before we proceed. But get that nice and lubricated like that. Now what we've done is essentially made sure that these little poles are freely moving and there's not going to be excess friction inside the hub that's going to cause premature wear. So the poles are all done on this. We always want to grease the surfaces between the bearings and the axle. For this job here, we can just use regular grease. So a bit of regular grease through here. Now we can start to put it together again. So making sure the poles don't fall out, we can gently put it on the shaft, start sliding it in. What we want to do on most of these styles of hubs is rotate the hub backwards in the clicking direction as we apply a small bit of force, and it should hopefully engage into the mechanism and it'll go straight in. You do not want to force this, so if it's not going in, there might be something not quite right. Potentially one of the poles might have fallen out a bit, but you really want to double check before forcing anything. So let's try it. We'll give it a small push and we'll rotate backwards. And there we go, just slipped in easy like that. Now we can have a feel, just make sure it's actually working. Get our end cap, push it on nice and firm. Now we can test it. Sounds great. What you'll find when you do a service on your FREEHUB body is the noise of the FREEHUB will be extra quiet initially as it's all freshly lubricated and greased, and then it will gradually get louder and louder and louder as the hub becomes closer to requiring a service again. I'd usually recommend you do this with every bike service. You can do this 2 or 3 times a year, or really if you do any muddy riding and dirty riding or dusty riding, this is a great preliminary preventative bit of maintenance you can do at home to make sure your bike's always running sweet. So give this a go. Try this on many of the brands hubs out there, and if you have any questions or you need any advice, let us know. And if you have any other technical tips, drop them below. Next time you'll see a video on how to service a DT Swiss Star Ratchet EXP hub, which is the latest version of the DT Swiss range. So tune in and look out for that one next time.